There wasn't a speaker that came. There was just somebody who was an alumni who decided to stumble in.
Well, why is no one interested for the injects? Injects are so cool.
This isn't going to be the best inject presentation.
What do you mean? Injects are so fun.
Yeah.
How's it going, Discord and stream people?
Here, I'll scan it like 3 times.
Yep, that'll totally make a difference, Booth.
It counts for the next 2 when you do it.
It'll build up morale for the future CDOers.
Yeah.
Wait, Dan and Thomas aren't here? Not Dan.
Dan's on Discord. Anton's not. Anton and Thomas are on Discord. They're slammed with homework, right? Anton and Thomas, and midterms.
Yes, very much so.
Exactly.
I'm mentally exhausted.
All right.
We are recovering.
Yeah, that's, I'm sure, very respectable. So I wasn't originally going to be going over CCDC stuff, but we are going to do that today. So
That's good.
we'll get started around like 36, just so people could come by if they're still going to come by.
Liam, I talked to Dan about any of the stuff for GDDC that you guys need help with. Is there any? Because I know Booth said he might want to have some help with injects, but is there anything else I should help on?
I mean, inject development is going to be key. We're going to be giving out a lot of injects throughout the entire competition, so definitely focus on those.
Oh yeah, I also have like all the UB injects in my back pocket.
You want to send them to me so I could show them
I
today?
would love to send them to you.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't know where they are. I'm kidding.
If you send them to me, that'll be very helpful, because I'm not just going to tell you how to do an inject. We're going to go through an inject, and we're going to see what you should add, what you shouldn't add.
I'll be honest.
But the biggest thing is with injects, you have to submit something. Like, you might not get full credit for the injects, but if you submit something, it's better than nothing.
Don't they grade like a pretty big majority of the injects?
It's
based on
most of the
formatting?
competitions that we go to are 50-50.
No, I
So,
mean, like,
oh,
in the injects in general, just like, isn't a lot of it based off of just formatting?
formatting, doing research, and then also your environment too.
So I feel like the 2 things that I'm concerned with writing an inject is like the actual content and making sure it's formatted properly.
Yeah, and also like not written by ChatGPT. I'm sure that's gonna be like a big thing with the next competitions.
It's so boring.
So luckily, this workshop we're not just gonna be going through a slide deck. So
Thomas or Anton?
no, they're not
Where are
here.
they?
They're doing homework and stuff.
Yeah. So, the booth is sad.
I hope this crazy having internet. No, it doesn't go crazy. Not having internet. Why are you sure?
Okay, well, it's not looking like many others are gonna come. That's alright.
Oh, Tyler's here.
Tyler was here. I hate to burst your bubble, Booth.
Yeah, but like,
I'm here again.
exactly. He's here twice. That's how it.
You are here again, yeah. That's true.
Joe, if I just send it to you on Discord.
Yeah, that's fine. Are they PDFs or are they,
They're just screenshots.
What, injects?
okay. We're gonna do some analysis of some of these things.
Like the first one, 'cause I don't
I don't know why it's doing that. It's so dumb.
IR reports. IR reports are good.
Oh, that's why. There we go. I don't know why I was doing that. Okay, so we'll get started. I'm assuming you all got the attendance done. So today we're going to go over competition report writing and inject completion plus CCDC stuff. So if you don't know me, my name is Liam. I'm the president of CDO. And Thomas and Anton are out this week because they are busy with work, which is totally understandable. We're not going to have people do things that they don't want to do. And I'm going to just take this opportunity to just kind of, go through like a little conversation with everyone on Discord if they want to talk, and everyone in person if they want to talk. So we're just going to go through some stuff, take a look at some stuff, come up with some ideas from the things that you're looking at, and then go from there. So this week we have infra on Wednesday and Thursday, which is cool. Infrastructure is very necessary for GDDC at least. So that's what they're doing. And then also please be advised that if you are working on GDDC infrastructure, you are not able to play in GDDC during Blue Team. So if you want to do infrastructure, you got to either do infrastructure and then show up and help out with infrastructure, or don't. That's okay. Or if you don't touch any of the infrastructure, you could be on the Blue Team and actually compete. So just be advised about that. We have a workshop on Thursday, Intro to Cloud Management, most likely going to be AWS. So if you have no idea how to use AWS, definitely a good idea to go check that out. Next week, Blue Team's going to be doing configuration files and backups, which is also very important post-competition, right? Yeah. Good. So you'll take a look at that. And then we have Red Team next week. I think this time's incorrect. It's going to be 7 p.m., not 6:30. So ignore that. 7 p.m. Let's fix that so no one gets confused. Great. I get that the font doesn't work. Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, that'll be 7 p.m. But what will be happening is this is something that is still being determined. How many of you were at the CTF that we did in September? Booth, you should be raising your hand. Yep. Okay. What's that?
Oh, I said I was.
Oh, yep, you are too. That's right. So if you remember, there was Rick from Alexis Networks, and that platform with the networking, kind of like LinkedIn, but more specifically tailored. He wants to do a presentation on that, and then also help pilot test it using the best kind of pilot testers, aka students. So he is most likely going to talk at, I think, 4:30 next Thursday. We're still confirming that, but I definitely recommend going to that if you want to help test out a platform. That could be really, really helpful one day. And then also just show up, to show that we have masses, just in case one day they want to provide some funding. So show that we exist. Okay, so today we're going to go over CCDC information, injects, and IR reports. This is in no means going to be a deep dive into either of these subjects, but we are just going to go at it, take a look at some stuff. So this is, we'll first go over the 2024 CCDC information. Is there anyone interested in possibly going to CCDC? Okay. Not Booth, really? Yeah, okay. I'm sure there's some people on Discord too. So CCDC is basically the main competition that we look to compete in every year. We go to other competitions, but this is the one that is of our highest priority because there's the most stakes involved with it. You also have the most stakeholders that are there. There's people from companies, big companies, which are very helpful if you're looking to work for one of those big companies, the small companies, and you get to go on a little trip away from Albany if you get to the qualifiers. So this year it is going to be at Pace University. If you don't know Pace University, there's actually 2 campuses of Pace. One that's in Westchester County, and then one that's in Manhattan. Does anyone want to take a guess which one that we're going to be going to? Manhattan, yeah. So they definitely knew that our budget got slashed, and that's what they're going to hit us with the Manhattan prices. So yeah, that is, of course, pending going to the qualifiers, but that shouldn't be an issue for us. Just kidding. We still got to prepare, and a lot of the end of this semester and beginning of next semester is going to be focused on qualifiers, since not qualifiers. The event that we're looking to get to is the regional event. So you have to go through the qualifiers to get to the regional, and then the regional is where you could get either placed in the national competition or go to the wild card and then compete to be in the national competition, kind of like the losers bracket. So the only placements in CCDC that they do is first place, which gets to move on, second place, which gets to go to the losers bracket, and then third place for, great job. But anything else other than first, second, and third, you don't get scored. So the only thing you will get scored on is feedback, and how good your injects was, how good your services was, how the red team got around to doing that. We'll take a look at the report from the red team of our qualifiers last year that we did, which was a great job. I was very impressed with everyone, and of everyone who was also just doing this for the first time, because it's not easy. Hello, how's it going? So we're going to go into this. So this is the presentation that was sent out to our coaches. So our coach for CCDC is wonderful guy named Marshall Langlois. He is a professor in the digital forensics department. He's a GOAT if you've ever taken his class. And if you have not taken his class, highly recommend taking B4203. It's a fall-only class, but if you actually want to learn networking, it's a great class to actually learn networking. So highly recommend that. And then by day, he works at New York State Office of Information Technology Services in some high-up role. He got a new role, so not sure what it is, but it's a high-up role, and Mike works with him somewhat, so small world. And then speaking of Mike, there's a very good chance that Mike is probably going to be our assistant coach, since he is graduating in the fall and won't be able to compete in the spring, but he could help us with advisement. And then the person who helps coordinate us as CDO and coordinates CCDC is Demira. She is the academic advisor for the digital forensics program, also an amazing person too. CDO would not be a thing without her. So we're just going to go through this presentation. A lot of this might not be relevant to us or you, but we're just going to go through this. This is just, I guess, Northeastern was the one who placed first last year, so I guess I had somebody talk about that. So CCDC exists to reduce, so it's, it's a group competition. It's a national competition, and then this is the Northeast version, so that's what any CCDL is, Northeast Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition League, because it's a specific league. And then they've supported UMaine, RIT Champlain, and eventually, hopefully, they'll be helping us out, since Demira wants to help us host CCDC eventually. We don't really have the means right now, but there has been some talk in the future to have us be supported with UMass Amherst and them hosting CCDC, and then we have support. So hopefully a lot of you will still be here if that happens. I won't. I'm out soon. So there's that. And then these are the people in charge. So there's their school, their affiliation, and what their thing is. And then obviously you see Demira, who's the social media and co-sponsorship coordinator. And then also she's on the white team as well. That doesn't really matter. Coach responsibilities. We're not the coaches. This is a presentation from Marshall, not us. So the competition this year is focused on OT, operational technology, and Industrial Control Systems, ICS. So it's very relevant stuff. I've done some research on ICS attacks. So if you don't know what ICS or OT is, you could kind of talk to me. I've done some work in there with some professors in CHC, but it's really cool work. It's mostly an industrial control system or operational technology could be anything, but this I think is going to be focused on the energy sector. Yep. So critical infrastructure, which includes power grids, water systems, transport, healthcare. IT and OT. So IT, as you know, is information technology, and then operational technology is kind of like IT, but it's not. Operational technology is how basically everything in the background of a agency works. So let's say you're a power company and you have substations. You're going to have HMI, human machine interfaces that are running to help control how much power is being made, how much the power is being distributed. And those are pretty prone to attacks, since you could either turn it off, have the energy ramp up and it's using too much and you're causing too much issues with your natural resources and stuff. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong with that, and that's what the focus of this competition is, and it's really good since they're really looking to hire people into this industry. So if you're looking for jobs, definitely go with energy sector, Department of Energy. Good stuff out there. And then more people, as you can see, Demira too. This is important. So she is one of the white team co-captains. And the white team at CCDC is the one who does all of the facilitating of, team not team placements, but like background stuff that you wouldn't think. And then also the injects. So when you submit an inject at CCDC, Demira is going to be reading it, and she's going to tell you honestly of how good or how bad it is. And we'll, as I said before, we will get into what the inject feedback looks like and what some injects look like. I can't show everything because a lot of it's going to be proprietary, confidential. There's no confidentiality agreement, but I don't want to get in trouble. That's the last thing I need. And then these are going to be some of the services that are involved. So Active Directory, yeah. And then cloud resource management as well. So probably going to be AWS. I don't know if any of them are on the call, but US East 2, Ohio. Right, Booth? US East 2, Ohio. AWS. Okay. Yeah, sorry. And then containers, Kubernetes and Docker. Hopefully before this year is over and Mike is still here as a student, he'll do his presentation on containers. I don't even really know how containers work. They're kind of annoying, honestly, but they're kind of important to know. And then Ansible for remote access. If you have a machine, you're going to remotely access it to do maintenance on there. Credential management, which is where a lot of teams go wrong. And I'm going to be I won't be the last to tell you, but we also fall short as well in terms of credential management. But that's to be expected. You think, oh yeah, we have our 5-minute plan. We're going to go in and we're going to, change all of our passwords, but then something else comes up and then those passwords don't get changed and then you're screwed. So that happened to us during CCDC, at least in terms of the AWS console and identity access management. Yeah. And then our SIM, which is Waza, which is an open source SIM. Thank you, Thomas. Much appreciated. So a SIM is a security information. I can't even think of the E right now. I've just got so much things going on. Event management, security information, event management. Yeah, totally knew that. So there's a whole bunch of paid ones out there. So there's like Splunk, which you could do as a SIM, but also you could use it to query a whole bunch of data. And what SIMs do are read log files. So log files like JSON files and other configuration files. So it basically automates that and puts it into a way that you could read it and make sense of it without having to go through and manually read log files, which is just not possible, especially if you're working in a SOC environment. It's just not possible. You sometimes may have to look at manual logs, but with thousands and thousands and millions of events, it's going to be kind of hard to do that. So that's what a sim does. So you could actually use Waza on your own. So you could get a virtual machine for Waza, and then install it on VirtualBox. I don't know what you guys are doing back there. Booth, sit down. Away. Away from Tyler. No more ruckus. Yeah, exactly. So you could do this on your own. So if you want to learn the different, control panel management features, or how to just set it up in general, since you're going to have basically nothing set up for you. So you're going to have to go through there, make dashboards of stuff that you want to look at. And then also it'll kind of give you a little hint as if something's going wrong. That'll help you out a little bit. So here's the architecture, which may or may not make a lot of sense to you depending on how you're looking at this and you can't really read it. But what matters the most is these Windows boxes, obviously, of 2 computers, WireGuard VPN, Vault, and Proxy. This will be on what's on your end. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of fun stuff over there. So we'll kind of get into how we're going to manage that fun stuff eventually, but we'll keep going. But I just want to kind of just show you at the surface level what's going to be involved at CCDC, at least. Okay, none of this is relevant. And then Q&A. So I guess we'll go through some of the Q&A so we could kind of have everyone filled in. None of this is really relevant, I don't think. The only thing that was actually of significance was that it's going to be in Manhattan. So, fun stuff. Yeah. Yep, and then, can't wait for that. Okay, so here's another thing that we'll kind of take a surface level look at. A CCDC preparation team guide. I'll put this is kind of old, but I'll put this in the chat just so you could guys take a look at your own time. But there's a whole bunch of different components: scoring, team composition. I'm not just gonna talk. I talk enough. You don't need to hear me talk even more. But we'll kind of just take a look more at the inject side. So this is kind of relevant to those who are at UB lockdown this weekend. So you're going to want to go through. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, injects are business tasks ranging from very simple to very complex. So sometimes you'll have a inject where it's the first inject and it's going to ask you what's your first and last name and what's a funny joke, which apparently was very difficult for some people. Not to call anyone out, but don't expect everything to be hand-delivered. So, every competition is going to be different. They might not ask you what your favorite joke is on the first inject. They might just be like, all right, into the fire. Because these competitions get chaotic. It's very easy to burn out. But it is extremely relevant for all of you. Because I've heard this out there when I was like a freshman, that like 2 days at CCDC, the regional competitions, is about 1 to 2 years in the workforce. So if you're getting 1 to 2 years of security events and professional red teamers with 76 years of experience combined, it's not too good. So they'll kind of look like this. So every CCDC or competition go to is going to have like a theme. So this one was like this. It'll have like a from, to, who was also involved. So like we just received this printer and we need to set it up and have it working on the local area network within the next 45 minutes. Because another thing with these injects are you're on a really tight timeline. Sometimes you're given an hour. Sometimes you're given 3 hours. But just because you're given 3 hours doesn't mean it's going to be done in, an hour and a half. Because the ones that are longer are going to take the most amount of time. So, like, this is just a whole yapping paper. Like, just a lot of yapping. So, like, here's another one that you'll see, like, setting up FTP, So it's all logical stuff most of the time. And if you don't do an inject, not only is it going to hurt your score, since most of the time injects are 50-50, so half of your score will come from services, half of it will come for the injects. And then if you do really good in the services department, but you don't submit a single inject or your injects are terrible, it's not going to be looking so good. So that's kind of what the balance is for the teams that are, overpowered in terms of services but don't know how to write anything on a piece of paper. So that's why it's important to learn all of this in this industry. If you're writing anything, write Zach. I see you in this call. Knowing how to write is essential. So yeah, that's that in terms of the sample injects from 2011. There was actually some really funny stuff in here. There's Windows NT or something. That was pretty funny. I saw that in there. I don't know where it is. So yeah, don't expect Windows NT in your environment, but expect AWS and all of its wonderful components. What's up?
When will signups be for CCDC?
Probably sometime after CPTC, or it'll be due after CPTC. So think the signups will close about middle of November. And then from there, we'll be conditioning everybody over break. Not a lot, because obviously it's a break. And honestly, this is going to be the first break I've had since I've just started college. I don't have a class or anything. And, it's the holidays and stuff. So we'll do some stuff, but don't expect, 40 hours a week in CCDC prep. It's just not possible. What else you got?
How intense would you say CCDC is compared to UV Net Dev?
I'd say it is a lot more intense because it is a real world environment. Well, no, I wouldn't say that, but they do a lot of fun stuff. I mean, I have never gone to UB in person, unfortunately. We've only had the means to do it virtually. So a virtual competition is nothing like going to any of these in-person competitions. So whether it be CNY or CCDC or CPTC. But at CCDC, they have the red team play jokes and stuff. They do social engineering stuff. It's really fun. But there's some points in the competition where everyone's just exhausted. They just want to go home. They just want to eat something, and they just don't want to do this anymore because you're locked in this room without your technology, so you don't breach any confidentiality. So you're locked in this room for basically 8 hours straight, and your mind starts to get crazy after that. So, yeah, Booth, right? Yeah. So, we will keep going along here. So, as I said, we were going to go through the red team advice from last year's qualifiers. So, this was the qualifying competition. So, everyone is able to go into qualifiers, but only specific teams go to regionals. So, yeah, what's up?
How many teams normally compete?
In regionals?
Just
In general?
in regionals.
About 15 to 20, roughly. So there's different steps into becoming a CCDC member. You have to pay dues. So that. The school has to pay dues. So it's not just they don't just let anyone walk on. I mean, if they pay you $250, yeah, they will. But there's only a certain amount of schools that do, and I think there has to be certain regulations, nationally accredited cyber defense education school. I don't know. That's all fun stuff out there. That doesn't really mean anything. But yeah. So this is the review after the qualifiers. So this is the qualifiers happened. Usually about a week later if you made it to regionals or not. Usually they'll announce it on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, before they do anything. They're very active on Twitter because they just go through, they just say stuff. And they also put up hints for the competition on there too. So it's definitely good to stalk that because it's might get some nice intel. So as I said before, the red teamers in last year's competition had combined 72 years of experience, which is pretty crazy. considering how long this industry's been going for and how each of those individuals play a part to that 72. So yeah. So these were some of the attacks. Not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna regret saying this, but they didn't really do too much during this qualifying competition. They didn't really do a lot. So as you can see, it's all here, and it's just a couple bullet points. So on Windows, OpenSSH was installed on port 2222, not 717, right? Right, Booth?
What?
Port 717.
Oh yeah, apparently it doesn't get scored if it's on there. That's weird.
Yeah, right? That strange. Very strange. That's another thing too. You're going to have a scoring engine at CCDC, and if you like change something to think, "Oh yeah, red team's not going to be able to see it." They might not be able to see it, even though they'll find a way around it. But the only thing that you'll be affecting by doing that is also ruining your score, since the scoring engine only goes off of like one specific data set. So if you change the name of something or change the port of something and it can't connect, you're kind of screwed. So, and then another thing is, if you're going to be messing around and poking around in there, have some sort of like change log so you know what you did. That's also another shortcoming that we ran into, which is okay because we're humans, we're not perfect. You definitely want to take note of what you did, how you did it, and how to undo it, just in case it's detrimental. So, some reminders here. If you added a rule for blocking this port, it didn't stop any red team sessions that were going on. So you have to consider that. I'm sure they had some workstation that had all of teams SSH, all of the boxes SSH'd into. So that's fun. And then if you add a rule for the jump boxes IP, so if you're trying to block the red team IPs, they'll do some lateral movement and get in another way. So as I said before, there really is no winner. You're not going to beat the red team. It's just how much better can you beat the red team and also write some stuff against everyone else, because you're not going to beat the red team. The red team is going to destroy you, but it's going to be really fun because you're going to get to learn. You're going to get, frustrated, obviously, but it's an amazing learning experience. And what's great is if you don't like being on the blue team, you could always join the red team and actually win. Because the red team always wins. Here's another thing, of course. Living off the land binaries. Remove any accounts that look sus. So if you see, this is supposed to be an enterprise environment. Let's say you see Jim Bob as a user, or, Red as a user. Yeah. So, and then also, going back to the very first point that I made when talking about this, you're going to want to change everything in your 5-minute plan. What your 5-minute plan is will be determined, obviously. We'll figure that out. But the very first thing should be changing all the default creds on your default cred password sheet that everyone gets, including the red team. But the thing is, you can't let that be the only thing that you have, because you'll also have the red team find a way to figure out what those new creds are. So, yeah. Last year, they also had 2FA involved, too. So, there really is no winning. They also do, cookie spoofing and session tokens, so. And then WinRM and the domain controller with leaked credentials. So this was only in the qualifiers. I'm not going to go over, I couldn't even find the regional overview document. I'll find it one day, I'll post it. But that's also what we really need to go off, since they didn't really they didn't have a lot of red team activity during the qualifiers. We thought, you know what, this is kind of quiet. It shouldn't be this quiet. And luckily we did okay during qualifiers. Regionals was a different story, but besides the point. So want to make sure that your firewall rules don't end up screwing you over, because you're not really going to have anyone to bail you out. I mean, there is the black team, which works on the infrastructure, but I don't know how willing they are to help you out if you change a firewall rule that completely screws everything up and then you can't access your box anymore, especially in a virtual environment. Not so good. And then add a firewall rule to allow access to WinRM only from your IP addresses. So you'll have everything laid out for you, so you could, know what your IPs are, and then if you don't, it's pretty easy to figure out what your IPs are, and then have your firewall rules go based only on that, and not just do like an any block, because that's not really gonna work. Yeah. And then change the password or disable the accounts that have leaked or weak passwords. So if your password's password or password blue team, not gonna work. Or admin, that's my favorite, especially in this competition in your firewall. And then there's Linux, of course. SSHD alternate keys installed. So this is more about like key management. So this is Booth's new thing, right? You love SSH keys, right? I've heard. Yeah, until somebody else takes it, or if you don't have good management of those SSH keys, kind of like us last year in regionals. But besides the point. So this is some of their stuff, not as significant as the Windows stuff, but there really isn't anything of significance that went on here anyway. So, but I will follow up with the the regional stuff, just so you could take a look at that. So during the competitions, you'll have your services, which I talked about, and then the injects, but you're going to lose points in the services, obviously, so you get points for uptime, and then when your things go down, you're not going to be getting any points. But what's nice is when your things go down and you're not receiving any points, you're able to fill out a professional IR form and then also submit that to the competition directors, the white team, and they'll look at that, they'll go with the red team and see if it's a valid thing, and then they may or may not give you the points back. So that's a good thing. Most competitions aren't really like that, so that's cool. But yeah. And then here's some other. Oh yeah, and then also only if they're good. So if you're just putting a whole bunch of blabber on there, don't expect to get an IR report confirmed. They're gonna want screenshots. This goes in terms of the injects too. They're gonna want screenshots. They're gonna know, they're going to want to know everything when you go through an IR report. So we'll kind of go through a good part of what an IR should be like, how responding to an incident in a enterprise environment should be like. But this is a national standard by NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which has really good standards for basically everything. But it's like a 40-page document, and I'm not going to talk about a 40-page document here. I'm sure you guys are tired and don't want to listen to more people talk if you don't have to. So before we get to that, if an attacker has access to your domain controller, the sky is falling. Yes, it is. So if you don't know what a domain controller is, it's basically what connects all of your internal systems together and then has it processed to hit the internet. So if something's not right, causing you not to hit the internet, the sky is falling. Chicken Little. Executives have no idea what an SSH shell is. This must have been really targeted if they had to say this. Executives have no idea what an SSH shell is, or any other technical term, which is really important when you're talking to people in the C-suite. The C-suite as in like the president, chief technology officer, chief information officer, chief information security officer. God, I'd hope those roles would at least know what you're talking about. But if you're talking to like somebody who's like the chief financial officer, they're not going to know what an SSH shell or any of this technical jargon is. So you're going to have to explain it in quote unquote layman's terms. So you're going to want to be as basic as possible while also getting the point across. So intelligence, bottom line up front, kind of like that, bluff. So you're going to want to talk like that, because also in terms of all the technical jargon that is out there as well, there's also, things that don't make sense, or if you're just dragging on, no one's going to listen to that either. So And then your executives will be really upset if you report fake incidents, bogus incidents. Black team service status polar is good, bad, bogus incident to report. Yeah, that also must have been very targeted too, thinking that something out of their control was actually causing the downtime. So don't start putting blame on people. That's what you don't want to do. And also, if you're not sure if something is actually confirmed or not, don't say anything. So this is something that we'll also look at. I completely forgot about this link. I don't think it's going to work. Maybe. Let's see. Nope. Great. Hurricane Labs are really cool. They're a company that supports CCDC and CPTC. A lot of their staff is the competition directors for the competitions. They do a lot of cool like sysadmin, SOC work, and red teaming, pen testing work. And they're a sponsor of the competition as well, so you'll probably hear about them. What's up?
You said companies are there. Like, what kind of companies? Or, like, what names?
It changes every year because some people stop giving money. I know in the past there's been like Palo Alto. There used to be some defense contractors there as well. I can't think of the names on the top of my head, but Hurricane Labs is there too. New Harbor was there last year. Right, Zach? Zach's boss was there. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of companies. I can't say for sure which ones will and won't be there. That you'll kind of figure out before then. So, yeah. Again, credential management. All passwords are compromised. Yes, they sure are. And also those boxes are compromised. Everything is compromised. Then, yep, so this kind of lies into the MITRE attack framework in terms of IAM, manage your traffic with Wireshark, TCP dump, or network miner. Yep. Windows Defender is actually running and configured correctly. Windows Defender is actually very helpful. On your own systems, you might come across Windows Defender if it like doesn't work. If something you're trying to do what you shouldn't be doing, it's very good about that. So keep that in mind as well. And then some other things as well. Cobalt and the MITRE attack framework are good resources, but this is the blue team, not the red team. Just kidding. It's still very important. No matter what team you're going to meetings for, it's still good to know both sides or purple teaming, because if you're good and proficient in one area, you kind of need to know how the other side works as well. And also just staying up to date in the news, too, is very helpful. For understanding what you might be coming across. So now here's the fun stuff. So this is the feedback from regionals. It's not as hilarious as this is the feedback from qualifiers, which isn't as hilarious as the ones from regionals. Since a lot of stuff gets said during regionals, and the competition staff, the room moderators, will they actually have a specific Discord channel where they put in quotes, like out-of-pocket quotes said by, team members, and then they all just get dumped into one Discord channel just for public shaming later on. So be careful what you say. I mean, don't forget this is also a professional environment too, so you're not going to be wanting to say things that you wouldn't say in the workplace. So be advised. So these are how the injects for qualifiers worked. So professional executive summary to document the environment, creating a network diagram. So see, it's not just, what's your favorite joke. You're going to want to know your environment too. So having a network diagram is very important since if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to do that well. So making a network diagram, it's not rocket science, like how we learned last week how blue teaming isn't rocket science. That was funny. That was a wonderful moment in CDO history. Thomas teaching nuclear physics. I enjoyed that. So yeah, overall, you're going to want to make a network diagram, um, uh, inventory all of your things, so all of your devices that are in there, so your Windows boxes, your Linux shells, your Waza sim that's out there. Yeah. Speaking of you, Booth, I see in the chat, honeypots. Long story. Uh, would not recommend using a honeypot in the competition environment. Would not recommend it. Also, red teaming, the red team is highly against the competition rules. So, just so you know that. Log aggregation. So, install and function check Waza and verify the logs. So, as I said before, not everything's going to be set up and ready for you. So, you're going to have to do some setup there. And then they want evidence that this program is being used and that it's functioning properly. And see if you could see anything there. So, see. If you actually take a look at these documents, they give overall advice, and then at the bottom of this is actually how we scored during that. And then for this, they said only two teams appeared to attempt to complete the task. And then there was a threat actor executive brief, which requested that the team review an article about Scattered Spider. Requested that the team provide a description of who the group is, its targets, and its organizations at risk. So, risk assessment. Vulnerability assessment was my favorite during one of these competitions. I forget which one. This was just another out-of-pocket thing that was also put into the quotes channel. Vulnerability assessment, yeah, we've completed that. We're vulnerable. That was my personal favorite. Actually, was that regionals? I think it was regional.
I remember you said that.
Was it regionals or was it quals?
It was definitely regionals.
Yeah, you sure? I'm pretty sure that was quals, actually.
Or was it?
I think Zach was the one who noted that. It might have been for this inject right here. We're vulnerable. Yes, you are. So this is really good. This also kind of goes into intelligence writing. So looking at a threat actor, doing an analysis of who they target, how they target, and everything in between. CCDC ISAC flash alert to block IPs, but the team should have done their homework and not block them because they are essential services. IP that belong to the CDN. Yeah. Jenkins. We love Jenkins. This is for an enterprise environment. If you are doing software development or pushing anything out to the public or internally, you're going to have some way to get that code out there. So that's what Jenkins does. There's also like other ways of doing that as well. I'm not going to pretend I know how that works at all. Definitely not. Least privilege on your Active Directory, which is basically how Windows works if you don't know, or Windows in a corporate environment. Let's say I logged into this computer or any of these computers. Active Directory is going to take care of all that stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of other security policies and other management information that you could go through on AD as well. And you'll basically see that in a lot of competitions no matter where you go. Teams did a 5-minute executive presentation to the C-suite about containerizations. And it's important to be professional on topic as well. Some were just black and white, seem cut and paste. Don't want to do that. So, here's some of the things that went right. So, bullet points are joy. Missing an asset inventory table, so not following directions. So this is the actual feedback that we got. So executive summary is not complete, did not address fixing log synchronization, did not address anything about that. Reading carefully. The provider report implied that this actor had attacked the company. So you don't want to make false assumptions and create panic. No actual submission, just a heading. Great stuff. Great professional memo, but did not address the requested items. So there's that. Not professional presentation for upper leadership. So you don't want to play around with it, but sometimes you're just so, so spread thin that it's kind of hard to put anything together at that time. Professional email format, no salutation or closing though, so you kind of have to watch everything. And missing examples, no submission, no executive summary. That wasn't professional. Did not address the inject. Yeah. Oh, custom emoji was pretty easy. It was literally just like going into Rocket Chat and adding an image. Very hard stuff. So I'm not going to go into this, but you could read this if you want. We'll put this internally so you could take a look at. But it's ways that you could improve and not things that you should avoid doing during the competition. What's up, Jacob?
Give an example of what a good inject would look like.
Well, we don't have any of the injects since they're all proprietary and also on the competition environment, so I don't.
Just like a response.
I could get that for you. I don't really have any. I don't really have any on file, so I'll get back to you on that. At post GDDC will be a good time for that. So here's like some IR stuff from CISA. So basic things you could do: observe, act, report. This isn't really relevant. What is relevant though is this, which is NIST Special Publication 800-61. So I'll put this in chat. You guys could read this. I'm not going to bore you with this any longer. I've been yapping for almost an hour, so I don't want to keep going with that. But there's some good stuff in here. Actually, I don't even know if this is the most up-to-date one. I will send all of these documents that I can send out. So this is just some of the stuff, and it's really helpful. You could click on there. So organizing, response capability, handling an incident. This is what you're going to do. Information sharing, which is important if you're an actual business, and sending out indicators of compromise out to other methods so other people could be involved in that process, which is important. I have no idea what that's about, by the way. Totally not my job. But yeah, so definitely go through this. And then I will also put in some actual incident response templates in there. I wasn't going to go through template because I knew this was going to be a long presentation because I didn't have a slideshow, but I kind of equaled out in terms of kind of just talking. But do you guys have any questions about anything that we went through? Anything not so clear? Anything you want to learn more information about? Something that I didn't cover really at all? No? Okay. So I'll go put this attendance up for anyone who missed it. I want to make sure anyone who is here gets credit for it because that's important. But if you have any questions, always feel free to contact me on Discord or my email, which is always posted somewhere. So if you have anything, I'll also stick around for a little bit. But I will go ahead and the OBS stream on